Day one of SEC Media Days and a brand new Village Vice. I don't know that you can ask for too many better ways to start the week. Yeah, there he is. Look at that guy. Look how jacked and svelte Zach Blackerby looks from Dallas. Is it just you, Zach, or does Dallas do that to everybody?
It's the throwback collared shirt that I'm wearing. I'm like, what am I wearing the first day of SEC Media Days? I'm wearing the throwback. More on that coming up.
Yeah, that's right. It's already been an eventful day. The commissioner kicked things off at Media Days, Zach. That's going to take a lot of our focus, I think, today.
Yeah.
He gives a state of the conference address and hits on a lot of topics, some that he didn't, a little bit surprisingly. But what were your key takeaways from Greg Sankey's opening remarks?
Man, I think he nailed it. I think he absolutely nailed it. And I think throughout all of the fluidity of the changing landscape of college football, I think it reminded us, and I remember saying this a year ago, Brad, it reminded us how grateful we should be that we were already in the greatest conference in college football. Like there wasn't a whole lot of drama with the SEC throughout this realignment era because they already did it. They already got the teams that they wanted, according to Sankey, when Texas and Oklahoma joined the conference. And so then what else happens? Oh, okay, the Big Ten goes out and gets USC and UCLA and Washington and Oregon, all these teams. But that was all done in reaction to the SEC plucking the teams that they actually wanted. It's one of the things that Sankey said today that I think was a parting shot to the other conferences was he said, yes, the Southeastern Conference. He said it without messing up. He knows how to say the conference without messing up. But he said it's the only name that still actually matters. It's the only name that's actually true to what it's describing. The Big 12 has more than 12 teams in it. The Big 10 has more than 10 teams in it. Yeah. The ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, they've got what, Cal's in their conference.
Yeah.
That's on the Pacific. So
Cal, Stanford, and SMU.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. And so it means something still. It just means more. But everything he said is just a reminder of wow, the SEC now with getting Texas and Oklahoma, they're playing a different game than everybody else is.
Yeah. And not to pick at the commissioner, but Missouri ain't ever been Southeastern. So you could pick at that, but relative to those other conferences, yes, you're absolutely right. And the bigger point that the SEC is the walking dog. It led all of this movement about expansion. Yeah, it started with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma. After that, the Big Ten added their 4. After that, the Big 12 tried to scramble to, and that's why you got UCF in the Big 12 and Houston and BYU, Cincinnati. They're now Big 12 schools. And ultimately now, after those first Pac-12 schools left for the Big Ten, now the others have to have a place to go in Arizona and Arizona State and Colorado and Utah, and now they're Big 12 as well. Yeah, a lot of movement all started. And the SEC just sort of sat back. After they announced the 2 behemoths in Oklahoma and Texas, they go, we'll just watch now. And we'll watch all of the other pieces fall into shape. And I do get the sense, I'm not there, I'm not in Dallas, you are, but that it feels like as big a production as we're talking about. It's not a movie studio. It's it's a big LA Fox lot. It's the big deal that it should be there in Dallas.
Yeah, Dallas so far has knocked it out of the park as far as the presentation. Radio Row is spaced out. It actually reminds me a little bit of what it used to be like in Hoover, which is the goal, because I think that was probably the best spot for it. But yeah, just looking around, it's loaded. There's a lot of different media here, folks that have been here for the first time, which is exciting, which is what the SEC wanted. That's why you bring in new folks to kind of expand what you're doing. So far the SEC and Dallas, it's been great. The Dallas Omni, wow, very, very impressive.
Are there more? I'm going to get my first, before I ask this question, I thought that the answer might be one thing, but I didn't take into account two new schools. Are there more media members there than usual, or are you seeing fewer, maybe fewer that you recognize from past media days in Atlanta or Birmingham?
I'm seeing the same faces that I'm used to seeing.
Okay.
There's a few folks that aren't here that I'm friends with in the media that aren't here, but I don't think it's drastically different. And I would say that there's more folks here. The rooms that the media stuff is happening in appear to be bigger.
It's good.
And they're full. So take that for what it's worth.
Everything's bigger in Texas, or so we're told. I like this idea of Greg Sankey showing leadership and the SEC showing leadership. If they're going to lead the way in the expansion talks and in the action, then the SEC is positioning itself to lead in some other areas as well. More on that after I tell you about Roback. That shirt that Zach has on right now. I want that shirt. Yeah. I want that shirt. You can get it at roback.com. You can get any of their other polos at roback.com. They also have hoodies and quarter zips and a lot of other things as well. And if you'll go use our promo code at checkout, that's VICE20, VICE20. Use that at checkout. You'll get 20% off that very polo and everything else that you put in that cart at roback.com. And you'll thank us for it later. So, Zach, one of the other things that the commissioner touched on today was he made a remark about, it wasn't like directly a remark about third-party entities running things or going to these private equity groups to fund action in the SEC. He took the tone that we're fine. We can handle it ourselves. We have the ingenuity. We have the ability to think and to create, and we have the reach, the influence. We don't need a lot of help. Now, that could be private equity. That could be, it also sounded a little bit like the NCAA. It really did sound like the commissioner was saying, if y'all will just let us handle things, we will handle moving forward in this new age in college athletics. Yeah.
I mean, the whole presentation, state of the conference that Sankey did, I mean, the consistency of it was, hey, we're doing a really good job because we've been one step ahead of everything, every step of the way. Even let's go way back, Brad, and talk about the launch of the SEC network. I mean, I remember the skepticism of what? Just SEC content 24/7? Like, how is that going to work? And now it's a big part of what they do from a revenue standpoint. He talked about that earlier today. But now it would be crazy to think about a conference not having that. And we've kind of, seen other conferences try to do the same thing. It hasn't been as successful, but they've done it. You may not can see it, but unless you live in like one specific city in the country, but still like they're trying it. The SEC is everywhere. It's a national brand at this point, even though it's about the Southeastern Conference. It's still a national brand. Everything Sankey's done and the SEC has done, they've been one step ahead of everything else. So it's that way with realignment. It's been that way with media and media rights and presentation. And as far as getting the revenue going to where it needs to be in the stuff that you're talking about, at this point, just if he says he's got it, I believe him.
And just as a refresher, what we're talking about, some conferences entertaining the idea of private equity firms. We did a whole show on this a month or two ago, but that House settlement decision that introduced a new rev sharing model in another year for schools where they're going to be, on the hook for an additional 20 or 22 or $24 million a year, an additional 20, 22, 24 million a year. Sankey was quoted today as saying that was essentially a decade's worth of change in a matter of months. Mm-hmm. And it's change that forces, or it's a decision that forces major changes throughout the landscape of college athletics. And frankly, if you look back at the NCAA's history and you look at other entities' history of handling things like this, it's not as good as the SEC's record of being able to innovate and bring about new changes in the college athletics landscape. So I think that's what he was talking about there. And, new TV deals will be a part of that, but the league will work with schools to also initiate changes that'll help deal with it. It's here, and it's something that, they anticipated and got out in front of. We may not see He also said there's no magic button. It's not quick. So it may take a while to see these things implemented.
Yeah.
But it's not because it took a while to think of and formulate a plan. It just takes time to get things going.
Yeah. The only thing that didn't come up that I expected it to, because obviously realignment was the driving force of most of the questions today, but surprised nobody asked about the future of the SEC schedule. Like, do we get a 9th game? Do we keep 2 protected rivalries instead of just 1? You know, what would that model look like? That didn't come up. And that was one of the larger, forces of questions last year and the year before, if I remember correctly, because that was kind of back when there were different, was it quads? I forgot what we were calling them, but like pods, different pods. And I'm just surprised that didn't really come up. It's like we're all so focused on realignment and NIL and, the money side of things. It's like, oh, yeah, well, this was a huge topic not that long ago. But, yeah, he wasn't asked much about the scheduling, which I was surprised by.
I've even done a quick search here to find if anyone has reported comments from, in any other room or a one-on-one interview or something like that where they just kind of catch him. And I'm not seeing anything about it. So you would just think because of the need for greater revenue for each school, man, you just got to think that's coming, right? There's no way you stay at 8 for the foreseeable future unless the unless the ESPN ABC group just says we're paying what we're going to pay. We're not paying more.
I have a hard time believing that's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
I have a hard time thinking that the broadcast provider is going to have the leverage in this. I just don't really see that being the case, especially when we've seen some of these other contracts already pop up. And so I'm just not fully buying that. So we'll see. I hope it goes to 9. I think more SEC games you get, the better.
Yeah.
Does it open things up, since Auburn's home and home with UCLA went away? Was that kind of part of the process of that decision for both schools? I mean, we don't know. I'm just reading between the lines here and guessing, but you got to think they're going to come up with something on that soon.
I saw South Carolina added South Carolina State to its 25 schedule. So I don't know if that, of course, I don't know if something would take effect by 25 anyway. I don't know if these schools have been told, hang on another year and 26 is the year of change. I don't know. That's just speculation. But there's a lot of that at media days. Greg Sankey did say today that he was keeping an eye. He was watching what was happening in the ACC with Clemson and Florida State. And I thought he was pretty cagey when he talked about future expansion. He said, we're 16 today. We're 16 tomorrow.
Yeah. And then somebody even followed up is like, when you say tomorrow, do you actually mean tomorrow? And he's like, yeah, for the foreseeable future. We're at 16 right now. And in fact, he was asked a similar question like 3 or 4 times in a row about expansion and realignment. And he kind of was like, seemed like he got a little agitated, which is fine. Whatever. I don't know what you were expecting, but that's fine. He said that, they're paying attention to what's happening, but he's not a recruiter. Yeah. He's not in a situation where he's trying to recruit teams. They'll come to him and, he didn't turn anything down or say that those conversations weren't happening. He never explicitly said we're done expanding. He never said that. He could have, but he didn't. He just said right now we're good at 16. Does that mean, when the ACC legal stuff dies down and everybody's out of contracts and things like that, does that conversation change? It might. He didn't say it, but if they were dead set at 16 and not ever considering or open to expanding, he would have just said no. Yeah. And he didn't. He had plenty of chances to, and he hasn't over the last 3 years.
Right. Exactly. Now they're not, as we talked about it just earlier in this episode, that the league is not in the habit of responding. They're in the habit of being proactive rather than reactive. But Zach, if you go from a 1-car family to a 2-car family, and now you say we have all the cars that we need and that's it. But look at this shiny Corvette over here. Yeah, but I don't need another car. I'm happy with 2. And all of a sudden that thing goes on sale for 25 cents on the dollar. Then it changes your conversation. So again, not that the league is reactive, but
Yeah.
if another conference were to blow up and it becomes much more attractive and maybe even a little bit cheaper to bring somebody else in that can carry the same weight from a brand perspective, then you have to think about it. I enjoy watching, like the way I watch these press conferences has changed over the years. I don't watch to see what these people say anymore. I watch to see what they don't say because I think language is important. And yeah, I think the fact that he just said what he said, 16 today, 16 tomorrow, it's wise to leave the door open for future expansion.
100%. 100%. Yeah, they need to leave the door open for sure. So, and it is. And they're in a great situation where they can be picky. He did talk about consistently, and this message has been, the same for the last few years, but it's going to have to be a Southeastern school. But I think we all agree Clemson and FSU would check those boxes. I would love Georgia Tech in the SEC. I've been pretty consistent with saying that. You don't turn down the Atlanta market. That would be an incredible add to the conference. I think restores multiple rivalries with Georgia and Auburn. Yeah. I think Miami would be a fun team as well. So the options are there, and all of those teams would fall, obviously, in that geographical filter that you're wanting to put on, potential new teams. So fun stuff altogether, no question.
All right. I want you to talk about my bookie, and then Lane Kiffin is speaking. As we talk right now, he's speaking. So we're going to talk about a few other notes surrounding media days after Zach tells you this about mybookie.ag.
Yeah, mybookie.ag. They've got everything you could want from an expansive sports book, an easy-to-use mobile application. Just pull it up on your phone. It's super, super easy to use. It's very mobile-friendly. And they've also got everything you want in regards to going to the casino. You can do it from the comfort of your own home. They've got live dealer action. They've got all sorts of different ways to play with the slots and different types of jackpots, all sorts of things over at mybookie.ag. Use promo code NEXTROUND, and you'll get access to some VIP perks as well as some extra money to play with. So mybookie.ag, use promo code NEXTROUND.
All right, a few of the other notes from the first day of SEC Media Days. Nick Saban made his Media Days media debut earlier today. You ran into the former Alabama coach, didn't you?
Yeah. We got into the elevator, talked to him for a second. He realized the elevator was going down, and he got frustrated. And he said, "I thought this was supposed to be going up. I don't know what I'm doing." And he gets off of the elevator, confused. And then later we see that he was going up to get his credential because he had to get his credential to get access to the set, which is hilarious that they credentialed, or that they had to. Somebody said no to Nick Saban. I would have loved to be a fly on the wall and see that exchange.
That's the thing. Like, I'm sure, as big on protocols as he is, and as big on following the rules as he was during his time as a college head coach, you would think he would just have it anyway. I mean, I certainly would. The guy doesn't want to break any rules, so you know that he wanted to stick to what was right. But I'm just surprised that one of the SEC network folks who, would trade a year's salary to spend 5 minutes with him didn't just, what, it's fine. Just come on up. You go get it at lunch. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised by that. He also went on to pick Georgia and Tennessee and Texas, not Tennessee, Georgia and Texas as the two teams to appear in the SEC championship game. And that ruffled a lot of feathers of the fans of his former school. Why would you not pick the roster you built and the team you coached for 17 years not to appear in the next championship game?
Well, then a few minutes earlier, he said that, Texas isn't going to run the SEC, and then he picks them over his former team. I was surprised by that. I don't think it's a bad pick, though. I think Texas and Georgia taking on each other in Atlanta is a great pick, but I was surprised. I was surprised that he didn't pick Alabama.
Those are the two. When we have talked about it just a little bit in passing here over the summer, that's the two we've landed on. Are you trying to say that you make that much of a difference with a program? Are you trying to acknowledge the fact that the guys who left leave the roster not as strong as it was?
Or is he doing the classic, I don't want to seem biased, so I'm going to go out of my way since this is my new world, this is my new job. I'm going to go out of my way to not be biased and be the opposite of that. I'm going to be too critical on the place that has my heart. I don't know.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. And again, and you know what? Maybe so, because again, that's his MO. Play it right down the middle, totally neutral, totally fair all the time. Lane Kiffin is speaking currently as we record this, and he had an interesting comment on Greg Sankey and leading the conference into expansion. He says he continues to push our conference as the elite conference in college football. It's really exciting for the conference and continues to elevate the super conference. Is he the first one today to use the term super conference? And how far away are we from let's really start using that in our vernacular?
How many teams do you need for it to be a super conference?
16.
Well, the Big Ten has more than that. The Big 12 has more than that. Is the ACC over that too? I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, I think we're eventually going to have 4 20-team conferences, and that's what it's all going to come down to. That's what I think is going to look like, 5-10 years from now. But, yeah, I mean, leave it to Lane Kiffin to start making a word that we used to say all the time cool again.
Yeah. All right. He's trying to pick up rat poison, and he's kind of trying to take over the mantle of Nick Saban there, clearly, too, with some of his other comments. Other things you have seen. Again, Zach, you're there. So what have you put your eyes on and ears on here at this first day of Media Days?
Yeah, I mean, sat in on, listened to a good bit of Brian Kelly. LSU was the first team to go after Sankey was done. And he was asked a lot about, okay, you came in, you overachieved early, went in the SEC West your first year, maybe you underachieved last year. And so it was a lot of expectation talk with him. And then Beamer, I couldn't tell you, oh my gosh, that was boring. I wouldn't make my worst enemy go through that. But that's kind of what you get. That's kind of what you get. And that's kind of South Carolina, if we're going to be honest here.
Yeah, they have nothing to lose. But I mean, that should be their approach. If they're going to win, let them sneak up on everybody. That works much better than coming in and doing the dance and having the ring light and like announcing, oh, this is our year, and then falling flat.
That's right.
So that's the smart play for them.
Yeah.
All right.
You're right.
Lots more coming up this week. Zach, while people are watching, kind of give everybody an idea of all of the coverage outside of Village Vice that you're going to be providing this week.
Yeah, Locked on Auburn, another Auburn podcast. Be sure to check that one out, and then we'll put some written stuff up at auburndaily.com if you want to read about it. But Brad, that about does it for today's show.
It does. Thanks everybody for watching. Enjoy the week. Remember, everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.